All right, everybody. Kenny Smith, Total Force Holdings. It's no secret I'm a big fan of, in addition to carrying your firearm and your blade and your light and the other crap that everybody wants to carry with the EDC stuff, I'm a big fan of carrying a less than lethal alternative. There are times when you have a problem that is a bit too far away for empty hand combatives, but is not at a level of force being used against you where you would be justified in putting rounds on board. You need something between a harsh word and a bullet. Okay? No secret about that. I'm hugely in favor of carrying less than lethal. All right. One of the easiest ways, by easiest I mean most accessible, i.e. easiest to find, and fiscally efficient. I'm not going to say cheapest, although there is some cheap OC out there that I wouldn't trust. Even really good OC spray isn't going to break your wallet, okay? Unless you're having to eat top ramen for every meal and are living in a cardboard box somewhere, then it might. But if you're the average person, OC spray is not going to break your budget. It's not expensive. Even a good unit is not going to cost you very much money. All right. So I'm personally quite in favor of it. Next, another reason for that is there may be places where you can carry a small OC dispenser, but you can't carry your firearm. And the fact of the matter remains, the knife is still a contact distance weapon. Right? Even if you can carry your knife, but you can't legally carry your firearm, you may still want to put something on board that target before it gets close enough where you can touch them. Remember, a knife isn't that, even a really big knife isn't that much further than your normal reach with your empty hand. So, one of those things. It gives you a few more feet. All right? Plus, it's also got some other merits. All right? And we're going to discuss some of that. First off, we need to talk about what OC is. Oleoresin capsicum, the best way to describe it, it is the really hot oil that makes hot pepper juice hot. Okay? That's the simplest layman's term way of describing it. Okay? It's essentially the essential oil of heat out of hot peppers. And it's really not fun to get on your face. Okay? It's just not. But because it's not fun to get on your face, it's also quite effective to put on the face of someone trying to do bad things to you. How OC works is it's going to act as an inflammatory agent upon the mucous membranes. Basically, if it's a part of the body that naturally gets wet and you get this on there, it's going to light it up. Okay? What are the typical effects of it? Well, before we can talk about what the effects are, we need to start with the understanding that not everybody is going to be responsive to it or fully responsive to it. 6 to 10% of the population, depending on which study you want to read, doesn't respond to it at all, and another 6 to 10% of the population don't respond to it all the way. Okay? So it's not guaranteed, to say the least. You've got roughly an 80% chance, depending on which one you want to look at. Again, 80 to 88% chance that it's going to work as intended. That pretty good odds? I'll take those odds. But at the same time, it's one of those things. You still need a backup. You can't just call it good. I sprayed them, so I'm good. You still need to be able to back that up with empty hand skills, and I would certainly suggest also having a next step up, whether that be a knife, a baton, a handgun, something of that nature. Okay? So it's not a do-all, end-all. Right? Now, what it does when it hits the target, the eyes feel like they're on fire. They lock shut, making it really hard for that person to see you. If they can't see, it's really hard for them to fight. Further, if it gets in their nose, it makes breathing quite difficult and painful. If they can't breathe, it's also hard for them to fight, which is good for you. If it gets in their mouth, it's like they just ate way too many hot peppers. Really hot peppers. I'm not saying spray someone in the mouth, but I am saying it's a good freebie. All right? Like when I spray someone with OC and working clubs and bars over the years, I got the opportunity to give a bunch of people a dose of hot shit. I would try to do a zigzagging pattern where I got their eyes, in their nose, and in their mouth. One, if they've already got their head turned back and you aim for their mouth area, you're going to go straight up their nose, which has a pretty good effect. All right, but the real target is the eyes. Now, even on the skin that's exposed to it, it feels somewhere in the manner between a moderate to severe sunburn. It's not fun, okay? And if that person's sweating, it's even worse. Now, OC came about because CS, tear gas, took a little bit too long to work on people more often than not, all right? And plus, with the advent of the taser, CS typically requires a more extreme solvent which can have some medical effects, and more importantly, is typically flammable. So with the taser coming on board, you really don't want to get an electrical arc near something flammable. That's usually a bad idea, which is one of the reasons why most of your OC-CS blended sprays, which has a little bit of both, won't be marked as taser safe, okay? And I say most, I'm not personally familiar with a taser safe OC-CS blend. I'm sure there's one out there, I'm just not familiar with it. All right. But understand that not everybody's going to be affected with the OC, which is why the OC-CS still exists. The theory being OC being natural, CS being synthetic. What the natural chemical doesn't affect, the synthetic chemical will. And what the synthetic chemical won't affect, the natural chemical will. All right. Now, understand, it is a chemical reaction happening on this person's body. And like all chemical reactions, it does take time. Now, OC is pretty quick. Everybody I've sprayed with it has been fairly quickly effective. But it's not uncommon for it to take anywhere between 3/4 of a second and 2 seconds for you to start noticing effect. Now, even if we take 3/4 of a second, that's half of your classic 21-foot rule standards. That person can still close, let's see, half 21 feet, 10.5 feet before it takes effect on them. Now, fortunately, that's further of a range than most people's OC spray. But that's also a problem because it's entirely possible if they're in range for you to spray them, for them to be on top of you and doing bad things for a very short period of time before it takes effect. So this right here, OC spray, you have to resort to the boxer's method of stick and move. Hit them and don't be there, right? You're buying yourself time for it to take effect. Now, I've sprayed some people and it was nearly instant. Like, they shook their head once or twice and they were done. And I've sprayed people that it took a little bit, and I had a couple of oh shit, oh fuck moments along the way, okay? So understand, it's not instant, right? Now, yet another reason why the OC-CS blends exist, OC does take effect faster than CS typically, at least in liquid form. So that was one of the theories with those as well, all right? Now we need to talk about how you measure the strength of pepper spray. Some will say 5%, 10%, I don't pay attention to that. All right, I'll look at the major capsaicinoid content, right? That's your MC, your percent MC. Now, the military is restricted to using 0.2%. I forget the exact number, but they can't go but so much higher over 0.2. 0.2% is what I carried when I first started bouncing. One, I was used to it from the military. Two, I had a buddy of mine who had a police department whose policy allowed them to buy OC spray from the department. He carried a personally owned OC unit because he's still is a smaller guy. He's bulked up in a good way, so he doesn't have the same issue anymore. But at the time, he was a big runner, so he was about that wide at the waist. So carrying the Mark IV size can of spray, this right here, and to put that in perspective, that's a 3/4 liter water bottle. Okay. Like, that's not a small can of spray. He was allowed to carry the Asp Defender, which he carried the slightly bigger version of this Street Defender. It's about that long. Just because he could shove it in his duty belt, and he still met the department policy for carrying OC, but yeah, it wasn't a big honking thing. However, his department did sell it to their guys. They could basically buy it from the department for, it wasn't much, it was like 50, 60 cents more than what the department paid for it per can. So he'd buy it from the department and keep me supplied with it at obviously a profit for himself as well. And because that's the exact same can our MPs has, it must be good. And then DefTech come out with the X2, which was 0.4% major capsaicinoids. That quickly turned into a 0.6, their orange band, and a I don't know if they had a 0.8, but the more common now, 1.3% major capsaicinoids. I try to stay at 1.3. I've got one unit that I'm going to show you on this video that is not, but it's actually my sister-in-law's, or it was. It's long since expired, and I just haven't got around to disposing of it because it's a good exemplar, right, for stuff like this. Now, make sure you get your good 1.3% major capsaicinoids. The higher the major capsaicinoid content, the more effective it's going to be, right? That's like saying, all right, it's all the same chemical, so we're all talking about the same diameter bullet, but I'm just going to push it faster. If all things are created equal, let's say 124 grain 9mm bullet, If it works at 1100 feet per second, it's probably going to work a whole lot nastier at 1250. Same concept, right? It's just a little bit more active ingredient in there, right? So the next thing you'll see is Scoville heat units. I know Fox Labs puts out their Scoville heat units, which is fine. Scoville heat units, I don't know exactly how it works. It basically just tells you how hot something is. I've used Fox Labs spray quite effectively, so I've got nothing against it. I'm just saying, for determining if you're getting good spray, pay attention to the major capsaicinoid content. All right, now we're going from there. You've got a couple of different delivery systems with OC spray. All right, the first is a pinpoint stream, which my duty size cans are pinpoint streams. Pinpoint stream is just what it says. It's a tight, fine little line of spray coming out at high pressure. I like pinpoint streams because I can draw a pattern on the face and get more of it that I want, right? I'm not getting like a fog or a cone where it might not be as dense as I want it to be at the range I'm using it. It's a fairly tight stream, even at the extent of the can's range. So that's why I'm partial to it. Some companies use what they call a splatter stream, which is it's a stream. It's just a little bit wider, so it splatters more when it hits them. Although I will say even Deftech's pinpoint stream, which is pretty tight, it tends to splatter a pretty good ways on the face, and you don't have to do much zigzagging to get all the fun shit. All right, the next would be a cone, which is just what it says. It's a cone. It opens up. Think of it as the shotgun, the smoothbore shotgun with buckshot of OC spray, right? It's just going to open up progressively over time. Then you have the fog, which is what my Asp Defender is, which is the one I carry every day. And it's just what it says. It releases the fog of very finely aerosolized and atomized OC spray into the air, almost behaving like a gas. You also have gels, which are self-explanatory. Instead of pushing a liquid, it's pushing a gel. And a foam. Again, self-explanatory, but instead of pushing a liquid, it's pushing a foam. All right, like think of it like soap suds. Best way to describe it. Now, I know people who will get the foam and get the gel, and that's all they carry, and that's fine. Me personally, I tend to like the liquid because I can do other stuff with it, which we'll get into here shortly. But I also know plenty of people that work bars and clubs like I used to that'll carry a can of the liquid and a can of the foam or the gel. Because liquid OC spray, mark my words, is not an inside toy. It's not. Personal story on that. When I was bouncing in Fayetteville, 21 years old, full of piss and vinegar, I'm working the door, fight inside. Cool. I come storming in there. We had two of us on the door, so I go storming in there and I'm ready to crack heads, right? And I couldn't half breathe for shit because one of my partners got the bright notion. They got into a pretty good scuffle with several people and they got some distance and they were going to spray them. The problem is you're dealing with an aerosol, meaning a liquid propelled by gas under pressure, right? What happens when you aerosolize anything? Some of it's going to atomize, and that atomized product is going to get into the air. Well, they weren't far from the AC return. Yeah. OC, not an inside toy. That was not a fun rest of the night, to say the least. And business sucked the rest of the night, to say the least. So, yeah. Not an inside toy. Use liquid outside. However, gels and foams don't have that problem. They do still have that problem, but it's not nearly as bad. They work a whole lot better inside. The next thing to think about with that aerosolization is some of that stuff is going to get into the air around that person after they get sprayed. So if you're a law enforcement officer or you're a security officer wanting to detain someone in, say, a guard shack or your vehicle or something like that, roll the fucking windows down. You'll thank me later. You'll thank me later. Otherwise, that hot shit's going to get in there and it's going to make you cough and it's going to make you choke and it's going to make your nose run and it might make your eyes tear up and it's going to be a whole lot of not fun the rest of your shift. All right, it's one of the reasons why cops hate pepper spray. Like, a lot of them use it, but I don't know too many of them that like it when their partners use it. Another thing to keep in mind with the delivery system, one of the reasons why I'm partial to the stream, is with the cone or the fog, it is very easy to accidentally clip a non-combatant or friendly, right? And catch them in the pattern. One of the reasons why we don't like using shotguns in crowded places, right? Same exact concept. All right, OC spray does not discriminate. It does not care if you're the person that was meant to hit or not. If it gets on you, it's going to light you up. So that's just one of the reasons I'm partial to it. I am a little bit leery on the foams and the gels, and I understand they have improved dramatically since this incident happened, because we're talking about almost 15 years ago now. Buddy of mine, now retired law enforcement officer, retired chief of police from an area not too far from me. Real good dude, real solid guy. Me and him were jiu-jitsu buddies. Yeah, great guy. So he was a sergeant with his department at the time, and they had just bought the new DefTech foam. A lot of law enforcement agencies in my area use DefTech stuff. All right, I use DefTech stuff too, so one of those things. Nothing wrong with other brands. That's just what most of my experience is with. So that's what I refer to. Got their new foam, and he sprayed a guy with it, and the guy immediately shit in his face, kind of wiped it off like that. And when he flicked his hand out, he turned it up. Wasn't even trying to, but some of that foam come up, got in my buddy and kind of right here under his left eye and lit him the fuck up. So after that, I have been leery to use gels or foams personally, although I understand now most of them melt and break down into a liquid on the face nearly instantly. And even if they're not nearly instantly, much faster than they did back then, making that a lot less likely. All right, so one of those things. Now we're going to talk about deploying your OC, how to use it. Okay, you understand your delivery system. I like to spray just above the eyes, down across the nose, just below the chin, and back up to the eyes in an hourglass pattern, or just zigzag across the face. And the reason for that is I don't want to aim specifically for their eye. All right, OC aerosol is dramatically affected by wind, which is how you end up getting your partner, right? But nonetheless, it's dramatic. It's not like a bullet. It's not traveling that fast, so it's got a hell of a lot more windage that you may have to correct for. Okay, so one of those things. All right, I want to make sure I get the good stuff. All right, I want to get eyes, I want to get nose, I want to get mouth. All right, if I can get all three, even better. Why? I want their eyes to lock shut. I want it to burn when they try to breathe through their nose, and I want it to still burn if they try to breathe through their mouth, because burning through their nose hurts. Okay, so that's just me. As long as you get eyes and nose, you're pretty much good to go. But if you can get the mouth too, even better. All right. So one of those things. I like to do the zigzag. Some will just do it quick, half second to a second long, depending on the unit burst, and they'll aim for the nose. Some of them will get up here on the forehead, so it kind of splatters and washes down. All of the above work. All right. Why do I use the zigzag pattern or the hourglass? Ideally, an hourglass. Typically, it just turns into a zigzag. So I'd love to say I'd got a perfect hourglass on people's faces every time, but it doesn't always work like that. Normally it's just a quick zigzag and send them on their way wherever they want to run to when their face feels like it's on fire. But anyway, with the OC, you want to cover the face. You want it atomizing into the eyes to keep the effect going. You want it atomizing into the nose. But also understand this, the more product you put on their face, the longer it's going to take to work. So you do want to keep it short and sweet, but at the same time, you want to make sure you get enough on there to make sure you get all the good shit. It's a balancing act. All right. Another method of deploying OC spray, and we're going to use my Mark III size can. This actually has, the last several security gigs I've worked, this has been with me. All right, which is why the can looks beat up. It's actually not due to expire for another year and a half, so it's actually fairly new. All right, another technique you can do, I'm going to stand up real quick. And my Asp Defender, because it's a fog pattern, so I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate with that. As much as you can see, I'm wearing all black and it's black. All right, if I can get this pointed behind me and slightly up, I don't know how well y'all can see that. If I'm worried about someone being behind me and following me, and with bad intention, make sure I keep that on safe. All right, I can get that out and put a cloud of OC fog, not a very big one with that unit, but with something, say, this size, which we'll get into later. You can put a right decent sized cloud behind you, make them walk through that, so their ability to function and fight is degraded by the time they catch up. All right, might not be out of the fight, but they certainly won't be 100%. So there's some merit to that. Kelly McCann was a big proponent of that technique for many years. It may still be. I haven't heard much out of him in a while, so I hope he's doing well, because even though I've never met him, I've learned a great deal from him. All right, over the years, I think I've got every DVD he ever put out. But yeah, so that's absolutely a valid technique as well. Another technique you can use OC spray for that also works very, very well, and this is more of a law enforcement or security context. If you got someone barricaded, not wanting to come out somewhere, if you have a liquid where it'll aerosolize, all right, if you can get it sprayed up underneath a door or into a window or something like that, you can almost use it as a gas to get them to come the fuck out. All right. One of my really good friends, he's still serving as a law enforcement officer. I'm not going to mention what agency he's with now, because I will say he is a Fed now. But he was local when he got started. Me and him were really good friends. I shouldn't say local in my area. He was a local police officer in my state. Me and him were in the Marine Corps Reserve together. And he had an incident. They had a guy barricaded somewhere, not wanting to come out, ended up under a bed, not wanting to come out at all. They didn't want to get down there to see him because they had intel that said he was armed. They wanted to get a canine up there. They didn't have a dog small enough to fit under the bed. At least not without having to get in such a position where this guy could see him and do something about it beforehand at least. So the sergeant comes out, Mark 4 size can of OC, aims it just at the edge of the bed and basically bounces it up under there, and the dude started coughing and choking, and they just kept hosing, and eventually he come out on his own. So it works quite well for that regard. So you can use it almost indirectly to get some of that aerosolization effect, to almost act as like an irritant gas in addition to its liquid form. Can't do that, to my knowledge, with foam or gel, but you can with a liquid, which is one of the reasons why every device I'm going to show you here is a liquid. And with the devices, there is all manner of shapes, sizes, and delivery systems really for the OC. Now, there's two that I'm not the biggest fan of. There's one, I don't know if I know Sabre used to make one. I know Mace makes one. They call it the pepper gun. It looks like a pistol. I'm sorry, but I'm not carrying OC spray that looks like a pistol. Because if I have to spray someone, that can up the ante when responding law enforcement officers. All right, I know some of them are bright orange or otherwise less than lethal colors, but still, it's one of those things to think about. I can be a lot more discreet with this. All right, and this is actually a good middle ground size, the Mark 6. I can be a lot more discreet with a can like that or like that than I ever can with something that looks like a pistol, especially if I'm in an area where I'm carrying pepper spray because it's not legal to carry my pistol. Right? But you have it used to be made by Kimber. Now it's a Pepper Blaster JPX. Those have some merit. I'm not going to say they don't work. They do, but sometimes they work too well. What do I mean by they work too well? Well, they actually use propellant, powder, an explosive charge to fire a glob of OC gel. And there was just very recently a lawsuit settled where an individual suspect, I don't remember if they lost their eyeball or if they just lost sight in one eye from a hit with that too close. That almost has to be treated like a shotgun fired or 37, 40 millimeter launcher fired less than lethal munition because of the velocity it's traveling. As far as target, obviously liquid OC or gelled OC works best on the face. All right, I can certainly see the kinetic effects at the speed it's traveling. It'd be like getting punched in the face and pepper sprayed at the same time. But at the same time, if you get too close, the same risk of punching someone in the face applies. It's very easy to damage the eye with blunt force trauma, which is exactly what happened. So I would caution against those for most people, unless you have the understanding that, hey, I am not going to use this at closer than this range. In which case, one reason why if you're going to carry something like that, just carry the damn taser. The next thing that I would say has merit, but you do have to be careful with, is the pepper ball. The pepper ball is basically a 68 caliber paintball filled with pava powder. Pava powder is basically a chemical version of capsaicin. So it's chemical like CS, but it behaves like OC pepper spray or oleoresin capsicum, right? Those you don't want to target the face because just like shooting at people with a paintball gun, if you're playing paintball or whatever, if you're not wearing a paintball mask and you take one to the face, it's not going to be a fun day. Aim to the chest, the powder gets up, they inhale it, it gets in their eyes, still plain stuff still works. But there's not as much payload in each of those pepper balls as you can deliver in the same amount of time with like the liquid OC. All right, at least not directly to the face where it matters. I'm not saying pepper ball is bad. I like pepper ball. It's a hell of a system. But I'm saying for the general population, I think you would be better served with the liquid OC. If you want to add the pepper ball launcher, like the Tip-X or the TPX or the Lifelite that they have, go for it. I'm all for it. But I'm just saying, I think you would have more effect with the liquid aerosol for most uses than the pepper ball itself. So now we kind of understand what it can and can't. Oh, speaking of, if you want to get down to it, there are shotgun and 37 and 38 and 40 millimeter launcher delivered versions of this as well. Either as a muzzle blast where it puts a boom and it puts a big wall of powder out there, powdered irritant, or as pyrotechnic like projectiles. They go through liquid or powder like the ferret rounds that punch through walls and disperse the liquid or the powder into the air from rupturing on impact, up to pyrotechnics that put it out as smoke. Like conventional tear gas. So you can get all kind of delivery systems for OC. Obviously, the launcher projected or shotgun projected munitions will be a little bit less useful for private sector personal defense just because you have to carry a launcher or a shotgun to make them work. Not saying they're bad. I'm just saying not the most useful thing for private sector self-defense. All right. Now we kind of covered all that. Now we can start talking about your different sizes of units. You've got the common freaking keychain size units, which I don't have any because I haven't found one yet that doesn't have the twist safety, which I don't like. I broke my thumbs just from breaking concrete and stuff like that in the martial arts over the years. I've done so much damage to my thumbs that wicking that little small thing off all the time at that angle can be easier said than done for me. So I kind of like these with the flip top. You just shove your thumb under there, your thumb's on the activation button, and it's ready to go. This is the Mark 6 size, and I actually like this size a lot. This one, my sister-in-law had this for years. This one's long expired. I need to get rid of it, but it just makes such a good exemplar. I have it. All right, these are actually one of the sizes that I recommend quite a bit to a lot of women, namely because they've got this clip on there. Now, with me wearing, man jeans, and even when I'm in my gym clothes, I've got a gun belt on, the Mastermind Tactics Specialist Covert. That clip ain't gonna last long with how I would carry it. But if you're like wearing leggings or shorts or something like that, typically thinner material with a lot of compression, this would hold in place quite well. I actually know a few women, I don't necessarily recommend this practice, but some of them swear by it for being more low vis with it. Like when they're in a commercial gym or something like that, they'll shove this side down the side strap of their bra and clip that on there so it's covered under their shirt and all. It's out of sight, out of mind, but they can get to it fairly quickly. And I'm sitting here thinking, with my luck, something would get up and under there, and that's a sensitive area where you don't want hot shit. But I haven't heard any of them having that problem. That's just something that my mind thought up. So if you wanted to try that, you could. I typically tell them just shove it down in roughly the appendix carry position of your waistband and go from there. This is quite popular with them. This is a 0.35% major capsaicinoid muzzle dog repellent unit. It is OC spray. Dogs are highly sensitive to OC. So it works very, very well if you're worried about getting bit by a dog and you're in a place where it would be illegal to discharge a firearm, right? Or if you're like me and you just, I like dogs more than I like people. I would much rather, put bullets in 20 people than one dog, all right? That's just me. Dogs are awesome and people suck in my eyes. So if I can get them to leave without having to go to that point, then that's absolutely what I'm going to do. It's one of the reasons why I carry OC spray, actually. So this is made for use on dogs, right? But it works just as well on people. 0.35%. This major capsaicinoids. This is very close to the old DefTech X2. Work very well. Not very big. All right. I've got a pretty big hand, but still about the size of my hand. To give you an idea for comparison, this is the Streamlight Macro Stream, little compact EDC light. Okay. So not very big at all, right? Not a bad choice. All right. The size that I recommend for most people is the Asp Defender, and this is the specific dispenser. My wife carries the shorter Palm Defender, and they do have a new version now, the Metro Defender, that has a pocket clip. This is the actual OC unit. It says it's got an effective range of 5 feet with 6 half-second bursts. Not what I've seen. It's typically got 2 to 4 burst on there on a good day before it just kind of starts to dribble out, and range is 5 feet means you got a tailwind. You got a wind coming behind you. Typically 3 or 4 is about all it's good for, but it is a fog delivery. It works very well. You have a Kubotan built in. You can actually keep your keys on it, so if you strike with the keys, it's not going to be like some do-all end-all, but it might cause them to turn their head, and when they turn their head back to see you, you can give them a little something there. Manual safety right there. Okay. Push your thumb straight up. Catch your thumb on it, push it straight up, roll your thumb over, and you're on the trigger there. I recommend this unit quite a lot. My wife carries the smaller version, which is about here, and they do have the new Metro Defender version that has pocket clips, and they've got one that size and one the size of what my wife carries. With those smaller units, it's typically going to be a one-way type of OC, right? Like a one-way type of aerosol. If it's not facing this way, then it's not going to draw and do what it needs to do from the volume in the bottom. When you get to your bigger duty size cans like this DefTech Mark III, and I've carried this one on duty many, many times, this is a 360 degree can. This is important. If you can get a 360 degree can, you want to, especially if you're doing that behind the back spraying like we were talking about earlier, right? Works very well for that. But you need that 360 degree can because it's probably going to be upside down unless you want to do some hokey shit like this, okay? Which you can do. It's just a little bit less discreet. So one of those things. Make sure you get a good 360-degree can. This is 1.5 ounce, Mark III size. A lot of law enforcement security officers carry this smaller can on their belt. You can find cans this size all over the place of decent OC spray. I found them in hardware stores, farm stores, Walmart. These are easy to find. These are almost as easy to find as the keychain size cans. But if that's not enough, you can absolutely go to its bigger brother, Mark IV. All right, this is a crowd pleaser. All right, this I can drop in a vest pocket and carry it no problem. I can drop this in a coat pocket, no problem. This, not so much. Can I? Yeah, but it's not easy. Hoodie pocket, sure. My bag, absolutely. So these right here are bigger. They're harder to carry. These are more duty belt or bag size cans. Now, one thing that I'm partial to is I'll keep one of these Mark IV size cans when me and my wife are traveling. I'll drop one of these in the door, the cup holders in the door, or the map pockets if it'll fit. That way they're at the door, we can get to them, and if people are crowding around the car, think Reginald Denny incident, we can crack the windows open just enough to get that head out, all right, and hose them and get the fuck out of there before it becomes an even bigger issue. Now, you can get, like I said, you got the smaller keychain size units. A lot of people like those, and nothing wrong with that. My suggestion, take it out of that dinky case and carry it in the watch pocket of your jeans. Kelly McCann recommends that for a reason, and I found it is much, much, much more discreet. All right, if you don't have a watch pocket on your jeans, get creative. That's all I can say. You can get some cans like this Mark III size that have a belt clip on them. That's fine. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure it's Mace. Some of them have one with an integrated light on it, so you can kind of see what you're doing out in the dark. Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, there's all kinds of stuff out there. You can go up in major capsaicinoid content to about 2% with bear spray. I like bear spray. I used to keep a couple cans of bear spray, the 9.2 ounce Sabre Frontiersman. I used to keep a couple cans of that squirreled away in a few strategic places in the bar that I was head of security at. That way, if we had a real big problem, we could end that shit real freaking quick. All right. But understand, you do have to be careful about how close you use that, because those are typically extremely high pressure cans with the obvious kinetic effect of that on things like eyeballs. But they're also a very wide fog pattern that carry for quite a good ways. So that's a good thing. And because it's a fog pattern, aerosolizes and hangs in the air, it'll kind of keep people from wanting to follow you through it. So if you've got the space, you've got the time, and you're worried about something like that, that might be an option you could consider. And you could find smaller cans that work the same way. I know they have a 7.9 ounce can in the Sabre Frontiersman that's smaller. I think Fox Labs had a Mark IV size can, but with a bear spray type dispenser top called their Firemaster. That I know a few people that carry it as just a quick area denial tool. You can get OC lock-ons for the same thing. All right, nothing wrong with that. Just remember, it is an aerosol, so once you click the button, it's spraying. It's not a delay like a classic grenade, even though they're marketed as grenades. They're not. They're just they're like a lock-on, like a freaking flea bomb that you would set off in your house. You can get the Mark IX size can, which looks like a small fire extinguisher. You see these really common law enforcement riot details. And you can also get the Mark 46, which is a legit fire extinguisher. It's just filled with OC. So you can get all sorts of sizes and delivery methods. And OC is just one of those things. It's like, as long as you stay to the duty size cans and smaller, even the big bear spray cans, they're not that expensive. It's not hard to get into. And there are a lot of jurisdictions that where, like, I've got a Glock 17 in a shoulder rig right now. All right, there are a lot of jurisdictions, none of them I want to go to, but if I had to go to them, where that would be a problem. All right, maybe they don't recognize my carry permit. Maybe they have a problem with my magazines. Maybe it's the state of New Jersey where my hollow point ammunition is a problem, right? A lot of those places you can get away with carrying OC spray where you can't get away with carrying a firearm. And more importantly, if you have OC spray, you're not telling the whole freaking world that there's a firearm there because it's not loud. So there's absolutely some merits to having OC spray when it comes to legality as well. Now, you do want to make sure you check your local laws, because some states and cities and all will restrict like what percentage of OC you can have, what major capsaicinoid percentage you can have, what volume it can be in the can, stuff like that. So make sure you're following the law. But I can't tell you what the law is in your area. Frankly, I don't care, because I'm not in your area. If I was going to your area, I would know. So make sure you check the law and are following the law to the best of your ability. Right? But nonetheless, with the legality being said, it is a weapon. It has to be safeguarded as such. You really don't want your annoying 4 and 5-year-old to decide to give each other a face full of it, or worse, give you a face full of it. Either one of those would not exactly make for a pleasant memory. Okay? You don't want them to spray the dog or anything like that. You don't want, just like you Just like you wouldn't want your kids to get a hold of your firearm, you don't want your kids to get a hold of your pepper spray either. So treat it accordingly. It is a weapon and should be treated as such. So one of those things. That's just a little quick down, not really quick, 35 minutes, but that's a down and dirty on OC spray. What do y'all think? Let me know. All right, do you like the OC content? All right, do you like OC? Do you carry it? Have you had a bad experience with it? Have you had a good experience with it? What brand do you use? Delivery system? Show me your input. And just remember, like always, Patreon saw this quite a ways before the rest of y'all on YouTube did. Patreon link down in the bio. If you want to follow me on the rest of my social medias, there's a link tree down there. Hit that up, and you can absolutely follow me there, and that won't cost you anything, unlike Patreon. So until next time, y'all stay frosty, y'all stay dangerous. Have a good one.